I want to share with you all one of my biggest failures as a prepper and as somebody with a family. And it's something that I think a lot of us could do better with, and that it's something worth considering when it comes to your personal planning. And I'm sharing this with you because it is something that I am trying to remedy, but I haven't necessarily fixed quite yet. And it's a big deal that a lot of us tend to overlook, especially in the preparedness community, because of how much we have going on. It's sometimes hard to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. And I'm going to share that failure with you and give you some ideas about some other things related to it. Basically, a list of things that you would want to be prepared for that scenario in which you die. And when I say that, what I mean is if you die before your family does. And it doesn't necessarily have to be related to a catastrophic incident or anything along those lines, but you could just get sick today and be dead tomorrow. It happens every single day all across the country. And it's something that I'm honestly not properly prepared for. And if I were to die right now, my family would be screwed. So there are some steps that I'm taking to try to remedy that, and I'm going to share those steps with you. And there's other things related to my preps and just prepping in general that a lot of us probably haven't considered when it comes to the potential of dying prematurely. And so I'm going to share some ideas and some suggestions with you as well regarding steps you can take right now to try to make things a little bit easier for your family if that were to happen. So we're going to get right into that as soon as we have a word from today's video sponsor. We have a serious problem regarding trust in policing in this country at this time, which is why today's video sponsor is the Task Force 70 Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provides training and education to police officers across the country at no charge to them. Over 70% of police serve communities of 10,000 people or less, which leaves them under-resourced and under-trained to respond to hyper-violent threats, which unfortunately are on the rise nationally. And the Task Force 70 Foundation does all of this through a constitutional framework in partnership with Hillsdale College to ensure that these police officers can not only protect their communities, but that they protect the rights of the citizens within those communities. But they need your help. The Task Force 70 Foundation takes absolutely $0 from the U.S. government in order to ensure that their training is exactly what it needs to be, especially regarding the constitutional principles. And that's why we need monthly donors to sign up at tf70.org/donate. And if you sign up for $20 a month, you actually get some excellent benefits as well, including enrollment in a potential monthly giveaway prize. You get the ability to nominate your local police officers to receive this free training, and you also receive special discounts with some of our partners, including BCM, Blue Force Gear, Nightline Inc., and many others. And when you sign up as a monthly donor, if you use the code MAGIC, you'll actually receive a free TF70 patch as a thank you. So please consider helping out the Task Force 70 Foundation and ensuring that police officers around the country get the education and training required in order to protect their small town communities and ensure that constitutional principles remain in place. There will be links in the description as well as in the pinned comment, and I really appreciate all of your support. All right, now full transparency, I work with the Task Force 70 Foundation. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and it's a very good group of people that are trying their best to remedy an issue they see happening in the country that doesn't have a lot of answers otherwise. So please consider supporting the Task Force 70 Foundation because it'll also go to help support me and the channel and everything else related to it. Now, my biggest failure is that if I die today, my family is not properly prepared for that. In many, many ways, but in the biggest way, and the one that I'm the most concerned about and the most embarrassed by in many ways as well, is the financial aspect of it. If I die today, my family's not properly prepared to financially deal with the ramifications of me being the one who provides the most financial assistance to my family and support, not being there any longer all of a sudden. It would be catastrophic for my family, to be honest with you. And that's a failure, right? And it's because I've done so much over the last 6 or 7 years of kind of rebuilding my life after having a lot of, let's just say, financial turmoil that was incurred during my time living in California. In many ways, unfortunately, by things that weren't necessarily within my control. And finally getting to the point of stability and then investing all of my time, resources, and energy into trying to, build this channel and move things towards a more self-sustainable platform in the sense of being self-employed because of the writing on the wall that I saw during the pandemic, where businesses that I used to involve with, being mainly from the hospitality industry, were suddenly shut down just because the government decided. And I very much realized in that time that there was no such thing as job security. So I put a lot of time and effort and money, especially, into trying to do what I do now, which has been extremely beneficial and something that I'm very grateful for, thanks to all of your support. However, it hasn't left a lot of room for ensuring there is a level of stability available if I were to suddenly disappear. So it's a big, big failure point, and it's a big issue I have, because it's not necessarily that I'm embarrassed by it, because obviously if I died, that wouldn't matter a whole lot, would it? But it's something that I'm very concerned about, because I want my family to be properly taken care of no matter if I'm here or not. So one of the things that I'm doing is, obviously, we should be saving money, putting money aside, trying to invest in our future in some form or fashion, right? As difficult as that could be right now based on how tumultuous the world has become. But, obviously investing in some things like precious metals has paid off pretty decently for some people at this point in time, although really all it means is that your dollar is worth less. But regardless of that, setting aside some financial breathing room and resources for if that time ever came. And something else that I'm looking at doing personally is getting a life insurance policy. I'm not very old, I'm very healthy. I am, at least on paper, nowhere near any terminal event. However, like I said, that could be tomorrow for all I know. And so life insurance is one of those things that I am feeling inclined to acquire in order to ensure that there is something available to my family in case something happens to me. Now, I'm literally saying this genuinely right now. If you have advice regarding that, or any experience with it, or anything to avoid or be cautious about, leave it in the comments below. So that way it's something I can definitely look at and consider before I move forward in buying any sort of policy, right? So these are things that I'm thinking about, right? Like, I'm like, man, if I die, financially, my family's pretty screwed. Not because we don't have some resources, but because there's not enough for me to be comfortable knowing that they wouldn't have to stress about the fact that I'm suddenly gone, right? And I think that's something that a lot of us probably need to do better with. And I'm sure on self-reflection, a lot of us could find ourselves lacking in that department, which is why I'm making this video and why I'm sharing this with you, because I understand that when I am in a situation personally like this, there's a good chance many of you are as well. And I don't necessarily have the level of embarrassment or shame to not share this information with all of you, because I'm hopeful that it actually, helps you, rather than just, puts me out there for no reason. So that's the big one. Financially, like, I just want to figure that out. And it's not something that's, sexy or, exciting when it comes to preparedness, right? It's not the same as stashing a year's worth of food away, or it's not the same as, stacking thousands of rounds of ammo or whatever it may be. But it is still super important, because we can't guarantee we're going to be here. And because of that thought process and kind of feeling that way in the sense of, a failure point for me, which I do think is one of my biggest failures right now. Like, I have all this water, all this food, all this ammo, all these supplies and everything available, so that if everything shut down tomorrow, we'd be fine for a very long time. Unless I died, right? And then things probably wouldn't be so great for a very long time, because, well, I am kind of the crux of everything working the way it's supposed to. And because of feeling like that and kind of self-reflecting upon that, I also realize that there's a lot of things within my preparedness plans and my preps in general that are also lacking, in the sense of if I were to disappear tomorrow. So what do I mean by that? And this is something that I think a lot of you could use, some advice with, I guess we'll just say, or spend some time on to try to, better your situation. Because, coming up with money to just stack silver or gold, or invest in an IRA, or have some level of, savings set aside just for your family to have in case you disappear, isn't very easy to do. I know that personally, and I'm sure many of you already feel that way. Like, how am I supposed to have, savings put aside for my family when I can't even afford to eat right now, right? Like, totally understandable. And that's why a lot of people are probably in that boat, which is why I'm making this video. But the other thing to think about is, okay, so you don't have the financial resources to have that figured out. Understandable. And maybe a life insurance policy is something worth exploring because of the limited amount of investment versus the amount of reward if something were to happen, right? Like that could be something more justifiable perhaps. But let's just move past that and say, well, what about the preps you have right now? So what do you have on hand that is useful and important during an SHTF or emergency type scenario that your family wouldn't know how to use or how to access if you suddenly died? So you're on your way home during a large scale natural disaster style event, right? And it's, emergency broadcast, everybody is, ordered to evacuate or whatever it is. And so you're trying to get back to your family and you've got all this stuff set aside ready to go. And on that drive home, fuel tanker explodes and you're dead, right? Does your family know where everything is? Like, does your family know where all the food is stored? Do they know what food is stored? Do they know what types of food they should be accessing first? Do they know how to prepare the food that you have stored away? Do they know where the fuel for the stove or for the generator or for whatever it is you plan on using in order to get this food cooked? Do they know where that is stored as well, or even how to put it into the device that they need to use, right? Like these are all things that we take for granted in this community when we're really into it, but we often forget that our families aren't necessarily as invested. And even though they might be supportive, they might not have the technical know-how to do every little thing. Does your family know how to don a gas mask? Do they know what filters are meant for what purpose? Do they understand what ammunition goes to what firearms? Do they even know that there are different cartridges available to them within the same house? Like these are all things that I am concerned about as much as anyone else should be, I assume, right? And you can't necessarily always get your family on board to jump on to learning all this information. I mean, that's asking a lot in all honesty, right? Hey, let me show you every single aspect of every single little thing that I have planned for us in case something bad happens, right? It might not necessarily be something they're interested in doing, which I think is relatively understandable. So this got me to thinking that providing a level of how-to and a booklet of what to do when X, Y, or Z happens, and a list of resources and how to use all the items that you have stored away would be very beneficial, right? Because you might have all the know-how and you might know exactly where everything is, but does your family? And if the answer to that is no, what are they going to do if you suddenly disappear? If they don't even know that there's a year's worth of food stored underneath your house in the crawl space, they might not even look for it, right? So this is what I am, I guess, tasking you with at this point in time, because I think it's important. But develop a plan that you can leave behind as almost like a break in case of emergency case where, the axe or the fire extinguisher is usually kept. Make that a booklet inside of your home that your wife or husband or children or whoever you live with is aware of and understands that that is what they need to look at and what they need to read if you never come back, or if you suddenly don't show up, or if you are obviously dead, right? And that way, there's at least some contingency plan for them that doesn't revolve around your knowledge of everything you have going on. And there can also be some other things applied to that. One of those things could be the value of the things that you own. If I went to my wife right now and asked her to place a value on every firearm in my safe, do you think that she would get every single one correct? Probably not, because there's a lot of different variations and fluctuations regarding the value of expensive equipment, right? And so maybe at least applying a level of value to all the things that you own and having it listed out in a format that's understandable is a good idea as well, in case you do suddenly die. But maybe it's not during an emergency and maybe it's just during normal life. There are some resources available to your family that they might be able to pull some money out of, but only if they know what they have and only if they know what it's worth. And the last thing that you want is for your, widow to be left behind and to be ripped off by some douchebag because they realize they don't understand what it is they have access to or what they own. And suddenly your $40,000 collection turned into $5,000 getting back into your family's hands after you died, right? So that's another thing that I think is very smart to do, is to go through, inventory what you have, especially related to the things that could actually be transformed into tangible cash rather than things that are just, there for the use or the purpose of being used during emergencies, right? And yes, you know, this might actually help you in other ways too. If you go through and your gun safe has $25,000 worth of equipment in it, but you only have $400 in the bank, maybe that will spur you to do more now while you are around and not dead, right? And and kind of give you some perspective as to like where you currently stand, right? So, and here's the thing, and I'm going to be fully honest here with you guys, just to kind of, you know, I don't know, validate some thoughts or concerns, because I know people will constantly like question some of these things, right? For example, I just was shooting the piss out of this Beretta A300 Ultima Patrol, trying to test it out, get an idea of how this works, and also, you know, get my thoughts together on semi-auto shotguns versus like a pump shotgun for preparedness, right? Really nice shotgun. So far, literally zero things to complain about. That was provided to the channel by Beretta, right? I also operate a business. Like I said, I'm self-employed now, and I made that transfer because of how suddenly unstable my career became, at least visibly to me. And so I also run, you know, through an LLC, you know, a wholesale permit. So, you know, I can resale, which means I have access to things for wholesale, which makes it a lot more affordable for me to do things like test a bunch of, you know, shotgun ammo through a shotgun, and, you know, make things a little bit more obtainable when it comes to what I do here on the channel. So, you know, I have strategy, and I also have support from companies and from partners that I work with in order to afford some of the things that I do here on the channel. But without that support, without that structure in the sense of a business, and without those partnerships where I've been very lucky and blessed to have some of these relationships develop over the years, without that, I wouldn't be doing a lot of the things that I'm currently doing here that you see on the channel, because financially it wouldn't be something I would be capable of. And that's just the truth. So I don't want it to ever be misconstrued that, you know, I am LARPing as someone who doesn't have as much as they appear, right? Because, you know, I just try to be as honest and transparent with you all as I can be. And I am working with organizations like the Task Force 70 Foundation in order to try to expand, you know, my capabilities of being actually able to support people within our country and in our nation to do more than just run the YouTube channel, which I hope has been helpful for people over the years. But I am trying to figure out other ways to, you know, add additional value, including, you know, the MP Field Tool being a product that I've created that's made in the USA. Like, these are all things that I'm working on, but everything takes resources, right? Everything takes time and energy. And even, you know, making something like a product to sell doesn't turn a profit overnight. Like, that's not how these things work. So what I'm trying to say is that you should be reasonable and understanding about your current situation based on what you have access to, and how it reflects your financial situation for if you were to suddenly die and what your family would be left with, versus your level of need or desire for having access to some of these potentially important pieces of equipment that may or may not ever be used to their full potential, because there may or may not ever be an emergency that rises to that occasion. And so in the interim, you have to make some plans for what's happening right now in the present, which is not technically SHTF, right? But you could still die today. And so your family would still be paying bills, still be having to get groceries, still having to figure out how to suddenly take care of all these things that you're probably taking care of, right? And then be left with all of your preps, all your supplies, and all your plans that maybe they have not much knowledge of. And that's very important at that point in time for you to ensure they can access that information easily and quickly, and use everything that you left behind, or at least transform it into some other type of value in order for them to survive your sudden disappearance. And that's something that I just wanted to share with you all. And I'm not even sure if I got through an actual you know, coherent thought throughout this whole video. I mean, from point A to point B, did we even get to B, or are we at like A.2 or something like that? I don't even know at this point. But the whole goal of this conversation was just to share that that's where I'm currently at, in the sense of a failure. Like that's definitely right now, at least in my opinion, like my biggest failure is like I haven't set my family up yet as of right now, to a point where if I disappeared tomorrow, they'd be fine. Like, that's unfortunately not um, the case. And I'm sure that's how many of you are feeling right now. I'm sure that's how many of you have your situation right now, because it's out of your control in many ways, where you don't have the ability to financially just be fine without an entire paycheck coming in every 2 weeks, right? Like, it's just an understandable situation. But if we don't look at it and confront it, we won't try to figure out ways to remedy it. And that's why I'm doing this, because I am figuring out ways to remedy it. And like I said, please leave me any information in the comments regarding like life insurance and things that I should look for, things I should watch out for, or any experience you have with it, because I have zero experience with that. It's not something that I'm very knowledgeable about. And I'm sure many of you would have some good insight. So I would appreciate that. And of course, if you have any other ideas about ways to kind of set up your family, especially when it comes to your preps, do you have manuals already set up that they know to read in case you disappear? Do you have SOPs in place so that way they know to go to grandma's house in case you don't show up or something, because you know grandma's got it squared away? Like, these are all things that we should be discussing and talking about because it's important, right? And yeah, your significant other should know, you know, how much your prepping supplies are worth, even if you might get in trouble for it. So, but that's the truth. And at the same time, they should also know how to put on a hazmat suit and which filters to use for their gas mask in case you're not there when a chemical event occurs, right? Like, these are all things that are obvious, but I think a lot of us have this idea in our mind that we will be there, so we will get everybody taken care of and set up and ready to go, and we'll make sure that everyone has what they need. And I think that we should plan and prepare for that alternative of not being there, but also still wanting, you know, our family to be taken care of. And that's why I want to make this video. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you need anything else from me at all, you can go to magicprepper.com. There's a free Discord server there. You can network, you can join the Subscribe Star if you want to support the channel directly. And you can buy the MP Field Tool, which is also a very good way to support the channel while getting something very cool that's made in the USA. And we do have an orange version coming out here very soon, so keep an eye out for that. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.